Hi, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, whatever the case should be in your neck of the woods. I am so happy to be back. I have missed all of you, and for those of you that are first-time visitors to our CACR coaching page, I welcome you. And just let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is SusanDintino, and I am a Hay House published author. The name of my book is Songs of My Life, Slightly Out of Tune. So it's a humorous approach, as this title indicates, to all the things that I've learned along the way. In addition to being a writer, I also do this work. I've got just about every certification that Doreen Virtue offers, including Certified Angel Card Reader. I'm an angel therapy practitioner. You know, the list goes on, and I'm proud to say that I've been and am a part of Doreen's staff. So I have a pretty good knowledge of where you all are and where you would like to be. So what we are going to be talking about today is on the radio. And it's so funny because as I've been thinking about this all day, the song by Donna Summers, On the Radio, just keeps on playing over and over in my head. And I know a few of you have reached out and asked me what my thoughts are about that. So I wanted to dedicate this Coach Susan episode to some of the ideas that you might wonder about, some of the questions you might have regarding whether or not to go on the radio. Now, when we're talking about this, we are talking about internet radio. And what was interesting is when I was looking into this, right now, and actually this was in 2012, the study was done, that 42% of households in the United States have access to internet radio. So many people out there are using that. I know I have a radio show, and when I mention that, it always seems to be a little bit impressive. You know, it's part of these things that really gives me some validation. And I'll talk about my show in a few minutes. But for now, I want to just discuss this decision that you might be making, whether or not to go on the radio. Before we get into real specifics, I think the decision has to be made whether you're comfortable in the medium. And it doesn't take a professional broadcaster. Anybody can do it. We're going to talk about the importance of equipment, how you sound, your subject matter. All of these things should be taken into consideration when you're deciding whether or not this is the right move for you. So let's get started. So as I said, 42% of households in 2012 had access to internet radio, and my guess is that that number has grown. So it certainly is a viable option for you to get yourself out there, to promote yourself, really let people know what you're about. When we talk about these types of shows, for the most part, they are pay to play. And it was interesting because somebody had reached out to me not that long ago on Messenger and Facebook and said to me, are you pay to play? And I totally didn't know what it meant. And I answered him in a way that in no way indicated that, yes, I did pay for my radio show. And after he clarified what he meant, I said, yes, indeed, I did pay. Now, I have had 3 different radio shows. All of my radio shows have been pay to play. So in other words, I am not on a station that has invited me to come on and is paying me or allowing me to utilize their radio station for free. So like when you think about something like a Sirius, CIR, that type of radio station you have on your car, an Oprah station, something like that, that would be the type of radio station that you would be invited to go on. You'd have sponsors, things like that. But the type of radio show we're going to be describing today is going to a station where you are paying to be on their station. And I can tell you, because this past time, before I changed my station, I really researched it. And the prices are as different as you can imagine. So as so many of the things that we've been discussing in these Coach Susan lessons, it's really important that you do your homework, that you investigate the different stations that you're considering and the different pricing. And also, what is it that you want to accomplish by being on the radio? What is your primary goal? Now, obviously, it's a wonderful marketing tool. You can promote your workshops, you can promote your services, but you have to have a little bit of meat and potatoes to the show as well, because it can't seem like an hour-long infomercial. And it's interesting because I have listened to shows that were just that, and I sat listening thinking, okay, what is the show going to be about? And it was pretty much the broadcaster just promoting themselves. And I would just suggest strongly that that would wear thin pretty quickly. So I say that the best thing to do is to come up with your title if you've decided to go on the radio, because that will start giving you some idea of where it is that you would like to go. So one of the advantages of being on the radio, as I just said, is getting your name out there, getting exposure. What they're finding out with internet radio is that it's mostly used in conjunction with social media. So for those of you that have tuned into my radio show, The Night Shift, you know that I've invited you to join my Facebook chat room, where we're utilizing Facebook as well to communicate, for you to ask questions, things like that. Often the radio stations will have their own chat room, and my particular station, which is W4CY.com, does have its own chat room, but I prefer to be on Facebook. Now, why is that? Because first of all, you want to build that Facebook fan page. We've talked about that. So anytime you've got a reason to bring people over to Facebook, that's what you want to do. So what I did was created a private group for my Facebook chat. Very easy, just exactly the same way you create a fan page, you create anything. It's done in a couple clicks. I promote that room as a way for people to come and listen to my radio show and post their questions for the mini readings that I do. Now, the advantage to that, as I said, is that you've got that Facebook audience. You can promote it to all your friends. You can promote it to on your fan page. And even though it's a private group, and I just decided to do that to give it a little bit of sacredness, so to speak, so that I accept everybody into the group, but it just maybe might make somebody that was coming in for the wrong reason to stop and pause. And you have control of this group. If there is somebody that comes in and creates any type of problems, you can definitely just not them be in your group anymore. You can block them. So you certainly can do that. I'm proud to say that I attract great people. I've never had an issue. Everybody on there is great. So internet radio invites you to combine the two. So that's one of the advantages. You're going to be getting your word out there in multiple ways. Another advantage to having a show like this is you can invite guests on. And that's a great thing. I mean, some of my proudest moments have been interviewing people like Julia Cameron, Bernie Siegel. I mean, really people that I have admired all my life. Now, I will admit to you, there might be some people that you're going to reach out to, and I have, that are more or less name people that haven't been interested. Very honestly, I haven't even got responses to my question whether they'd want to be on my show. But that being said, that doesn't stop me from reaching out. I will still reach out. Anytime I feel that there's a book I'm really interested in or whatever, I'll reach out and ask that person to be a guest. Now, what is important if you're having anybody come on your show? What I have done is done a little bit of a paper, like an attachment Word document that I hand out to all my guests. And this is why. Number one, I want them to promote the show as much as I am. Because if I'm going to be promoting them, and most of the time they're on there either promoting their services, but more likely promoting a product. So if they're going to be coming on there, I want them to bring their fan base over to my radio show. Bring their fan base over to my Facebook group. So I always send this little, attachment, little document, welcome to The Night Shift with SusanDintino, with some tips as to how we are going to, work the show and what my expectations are. Because when I have my guests on, I don't ask them to pay for the time. They're coming on as my guests. And we'll talk about sponsors a little bit later. But I'm talking about somebody you've invited to be on your show as a guest. So that would be the first thing, that I, make sure that they agree to promote me on their Facebook page or whatever. If you've got a person of the caliber of somebody like a Bernie Siegel, single, and he is like a very well-known metaphysical doctor. In addition to being a cancer pediatric doctor, he was doing mind-body stuff before any of us were thinking about it. I believe he's in his 80s now, and if you're unfamiliar with his work, really, Bernie, I believe it's Siegel, I believe that's how you spell his name, but he's just an incredible man. So you can only imagine how many fans he has. And when I interviewed him, he had just had a new book out about the importance of animals with healing. So this was a great topic, many people interested, and it was so funny because I was so nervous about having him on, and I barely got a word in. He just talked the entire hour, so I really didn't have to worry too much about interviewing him. I was familiar with the book, I knew my stuff, which is very important when you're interviewing. Make sure you know your topic, what this author is talking about. Julia Cameron, now she was a little bit more give and take where I really did interview her. Well, I'm a big fan of her books, The Artist's Way, Vein of Gold, so I was very familiar with everything that I was asking her about. And she also had come out with something new that she wanted to talk about. So see, I'm on certain publications lists. Well, they will send me and say, okay, this book has come out. Would you be interested in interviewing this author? And most of the time they'll send you a galley copy of the book. So these are just a little bit of tips. And what I would suggest is if you're just getting started with this, to be on the radio just with yourself for 50 minutes to an hour can be a bit daunting. So it might be a really good thing for you to do to start with, to be with a guest and interview and allow the audience to get used to your personality. So that's, again, something that is really a big advantage to all of this, because as you're getting your name out there, you bring the guest in. And again, I'm talking to big people, but this is for anybody that might be in your world. I've had many different people on promoting their products. Everybody's got somebody that doesn't know you. So even if you're bringing somebody on that's a first-time author, might not have a huge following, there's still going to be a few people that are going to get to know you via that guest. So that's a big advantage. As I said, getting your name out there, your brand out there, increasing your social media, all of these definitely play into why a radio show can be an advantage. Okay? Again, what I would strongly suggest you do is put a lot of thought into it about what it is that you want. Once you create the title of your show, you can't really take it back, okay? So like for me, the titles I have had are the first radio show I ever did was Spiritual Potpourri, and it was me and a very good friend of mine, Tatia Skovnicki, who is an incredible musician, and her and I did a show in tandem, and really it was just so much fun. And I named it that so that we could talk about anything, which I assure you we did. And so that was my first show. That radio station became defunct, and to be honest with you, I don't even remember the name of it. Then on my second radio show, the name of it was SusanDintino Live, and I was on in the morning. I believe it was 12 noon I was on, so it would have been morning specific time. And I named it that again so my topics could be varied. I have seen other people's shows that have more specific names, and I feel that really limits what it is that you can talk about. So I really felt, wow, I was kind of taking off like the whole Johnny Carson thing, and it was like Here's Susan was part of my intro, and that was really the way I promoted it. And everything that I did, for the most part, I was always live. Sometimes I was pre-recorded, but I was almost always live. So that was my second show. And the current show I have, I decided to flip over to nights. I just felt I would be better with the night audience. When I left my last radio station, I really did investigate all my options. So I went to some of the radio stations that are very spiritually based, and I looked at them. And what I did was I actually talked to some of the hosts, and I would message them, and I'd ask them, Did they enjoy working there? How, because some of these places you will be signing a contract with, that's something you have to check. So were they happy there? How were their audiences? What did they have rights to their shows? How did the replays work? I really knew the questions to ask, and these are questions you want to think about asking. Do you own the rights to your show? How does it work? Now, the station I'm on now, technically speaking, I don't. But the trade-off with that was that they get replayed on iHeartRadio as a podcast. And for me, where I am right now, that was exactly what I wanted. More mainstream. I wanted to have the exposure to as many people as possible. So strictly having the rights to my show were not that important to me. And what that means is that I can have a link to the to the podcast replay that goes right up on my website, but I don't have the physical show to put on my website. And this has been the first station that's been the case. In the other two stations, I had access to my show. So these are the questions you want to ask when you're considering going to a station. What is their listenership? How many people are they reaching out to? Do they have a way to tell you how many people are listening to your show? Now, I will tell you from my experience, most of the time they can't do that. They can give you a general idea, but they can't tell you exactly how many people. Now, again, maybe if you go with the bigger stations, that's an option. But for the most part, for me, it hasn't. You can really tell yourself based on the comments in your chat room and what's going on, how your listenership is increasing. But one of the things is, if you do have a pretty accurate account of how many people are listening, that's going to really enable you to attract sponsors. So let's talk a little bit about what we want to do as far as paying for our show. What are the costs, okay? So what I did was I went to Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio has really been the mother of this whole internet radio explosion, where anybody can go on Blog Talk and create a show, and you can actually do it for free, and it ranges anywhere from free to $254 a month. And if you go to blogtalkradio.com and click on host, you'll have all the options there. They'll tell you all of the things and pricing points that they have, so you can take a look at that. What I would say as far as Blog Talk goes, first of all, you have to realize that you're going to be one of a lot of shows. So what kind of exposure are you going to get? How are you going to promote yourself? Are you going to get lost in the shuffle? All of that being said, it might be a great way for you to get your feet wet if you're just getting into it. Now, I read through everything, and unless I missed something, I didn't see any of the Blog Talk options with a producer. And when we talk about a producer, it's that person who helps you get on the air. Most of the time, what I have found is that unless you're with a really big station that has their own sound equipment, what you are using is Skype. And for those of you that might not be familiar with Skype, it is an internet phone service that you can download for free. And all of my radio shows thus far have been via Skype. So in other words, when it's time for me to broadcast, I call into the station, or the station will call you in, and it's like a conference call, and you go up using Skype. So that is the tool that they use. So again, I don't want to be jumping around. All these ideas are popping into my head, and I'm going to talk about sound quality as well. So Blog Talk, I really considered, especially after my first show was up, I decided and really looked into going to Blog Talk. And the main reason I didn't was because at the time when I was listening to the shows, sound quality was an issue. And to me, if you're going to be doing this and you're going to be putting this money into it, you know, you really want to sound good. And even not even so much about the money. Just like I told you, you need to get dressed up for Facebook Live. When you're presenting yourself on the radio, you really want to be sure that people are hearing you at your very best. So let's talk a little bit about sound quality since I've brought it up. The way I do it, in the beginning I had a headset. So I think my very first headset with microphone combination was a Microsoft Chat headset. Very affordable. And what I would do, and what I would highly suggest you do, is whether you're using a Mac or a PC, you fix your sound settings so that you're not using your external microphone or your external like headphone thing. Everything is going through your mic and your headset, and it's very easy to learn how to do that. And if you need any help with that, I'm sure if you Googled it, that you could see it's just going to that little thing that looks like a little speaker, clicking on it, and you can select what you want your sound to go into. It's really important for sound quality. What I did is that's the first thing that I started with. I think Sennheiser, I upgraded, got a better set of headphones and did that. Then I progressed to, I'm going to show you quickly here. I progressed to using, this is my Yeti. And now I use this headphone, okay, I have my Bose earphones that I plug into it. Now I must be honest with you, it took me some getting used to because I talk with my hands, and I was afraid that would be a problem because moving around, but I really learned. Now again, this was probably after 3 years of consistently being on the radio. I felt the sound quality was better using the best equipment I could have. But that being said, in the very beginning I used a very affordable Microsoft Chat with a headphone, so it's certainly something that you could do. So when you're looking and deciding what it is that you want to do, I would say the very first step is to come up with a title for your show. And the reason for that is because it's going to suggest to you what you want your content to be, how you're going to approach that. Because most stations you've got between 50 and 60 minutes to fill, depending what you're going on. I mean, right now I'm at 50 minutes, 55 minutes on my last radio show, and I believe my very first one, it was a full 60 minutes. So you're going to have to fill that time. So by selecting a title, you're going to start knowing what it is that you want to talk about. What is your subject matter going to be? Once you find out what your title is, that'll start giving you some ideas as to whether or not you've got enough material. You really could chat like this. And as I said, a great way to start is line up some friends and get some interviews scheduled. Start doing that. It enables the audience to learn more about your personality and also your interviewing skills and things like that. That's why my very first show with Tatiana was perfect, because essentially we'd come up with a topic. We'd usually talk about it the day before, a couple of days before, what our subject was going to be. And then we wouldn't talk about it anymore, because what we'd kind of do is interview each other, and we were both bringing it from a very different place. So that's what I would say, okay? So then what you're going to do is, okay, you've decided to have your radio show. Then what you're going to do is you're going to really investigate how much you want to spend and what the costs are based on what station you go to. As I mentioned a producer before, for me, I've always had a producer. I've always had somebody assist me get on air. I don't take callers on my new station. I have taken callers on my other 2 radio stations. This station, I take all my questions from chat. One of the reasons I do that is because when I'm doing mini readings, sometimes it's a challenge to get the person off the phone. And I find that doing mini readings is a great way to attract listeners. It's also a great way to promote your services, especially when somebody comments that your reading was spot on. That's great. And it's a great way to get people to go and, basically book more services with you. The problem is mini readings are very interesting for the people that are being read, but for the people that aren't being read, not so much. So I always sprinkle my teaching, whatever my topic of the show is, with the mini readings. So for instance, this week I talked about the full moon, which by the way, I'm going to be doing my full moon broadcast at 1:30 Eastern time, talking about this full moon in Scorpio, and that'll be coming up as I said, 1:30, and I'll be doing mini readings then. But with mini readings, like I said, first of all, you've got to be comfortable doing that. You know, what I normally do is select a deck that I have one card that I promote at the beginning of the show. Everybody's getting a reading at the beginning, and then I use that same deck. So it's got to be quick. I have found, though, it's a great tool to attract people to come in, to listen, and then whatever it is that you're going to be talking about, it really does help. Now, again, depending on what kind of guest you bring in, your guest might be on board. Last year for Mother's Day, I brought one of Heather Hildebrand on, and she's also very active in the Doreen virtual world, as well as being very, very, huge in her own right. Heather Hildebrand, great, wonderful medium, psychic, the list goes on and on. But I brought her in last year on Mother's Day, and we did mediumship readings for people. And, she was comfortable. I said, okay, come on, we'll talk a little bit about mediumship, how you can connect with deceased loved ones. That was the topic, and then she did some mini readings. So sometimes your guests will go tandem with you. Other guests might not be comfortable doing that. So then mini readings wouldn't be an option. Okay? So also, when we talk about expenses, and as you're looking at where you want to go and what you want your station to be about, like I said, when I chose this last station, I wanted to be like one of the only metaphysical shows on the station versus being one of many metaphysical shows. That's why I decided to go with this station. It's a little bit more mainstream. Some of the shows are a little bit rocky. As a matter of fact, I've had to kind of tell them some of the lead-ins, like commercials right before my show, were a bit inappropriate. And again, it's kind of like disc jockeys gone mad with some of these shows. However, I'm attracting different people, and I really like that because that's what I was striving to do. Now, you have to consider costs, of course, when you're doing this. And we talked about the equipment, which you can do relatively inexpensively. You can start for free on Blog Talk if that's what you would like to do. You're going to have to get some graphics, okay? And certain radio stations that you sign up with will provide you with graphics for your show. But one way or the other, you need to have graphics designed, either for yourself, you do that, or else the people will provide them for you. So that could be a expense as well. For me, I go to my web guy, I tell him the sizes I needed, and I had a special one made for my chat room, and I invested in all of that. So that's an expense that you would have to expect to incur unless by some chance the station that you went to was providing that. And like I said, I've really seen some very affordable stations out there where you can really get quite a bit for your money. So it's all about doing the research and all about looking into it. The station that I'm on right now, it's always like, let's make a deal. So I couldn't even give you a price because he's always telling me he's giving me the best price in the world. I pay for my shows up front for a year, and that's what I do. I'm comfortable doing that. Then the expense is over. The last show that I had, I paid by month. So again, it's as affordable as you would like it to be. And one of the things I would say is if you're new to this, not sure how you're going to like the medium, I would strongly suggest you start with something like Blog Talk and really get your feet wet. They offer you a chat room. There's so many things that they have. I believe they offer call-in. I've never worked with them, but again, it's extremely popular. So there's some of the bigger names out there that are on Blog Talk. So it might be a really good way to just get your feet and get started with it. So I am going to take a look at the questions. I know I've been chatting, probably, 30 minutes without a break. So let's see. Okay, so hey, Bridget and Raphael, let's see. Okay, a lot of blessings coming my way. Oh, look at Derbyshire. A lot of hellos. Okay. Yes, Carol's saying she loves burning meditations. Do you have a template? Pam, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. It's Pamela asking me that question. Do you have a template? I'm not sure what you mean by that question. Hello from Texas. So many. I'm just checking to see if you have any questions. A lot of good mornings. Okay. Okay, now Pamela is saying that she does Angelic Realms Radio. She has a Tuesday show. Pamela, what station are you on? She absolutely loves it. And see, this is exactly what I'm saying is your best resource. And that's a referral from another person that's telling you. And when I have gone to different stations, I have reached out to the people that are on the stations and asked them what they thought about it. So a lot of good mornings. Let's just see. Okay. All right. Oh, I see. Okay, Monica, Word document tips. Basically, that template that I'm talking about, the Word document that I use, is to just first of all tell people that they have to promote me. But the first thing, the show rather, the first thing I do say before I agree to have a guest on the show, I make sure they're familiar with Skype and they at least have a headphone and a microphone attachment. Because I have made that mistake and not asked the person, and they come on the air and all they're doing is talking directly into their computer and the sound quality is not good. So if somebody doesn't have that ability to have a headphone mic, plug into a computer, and be able to really be somewhere for the show, because I've had people want to use their iPhones and you know, kind of do it remotely, and I just find the quality, it breaks up, things like that. The quality is not as it should be. So because of that, that's the first thing I ask. And I don't really have a template. Like I said, I pretty much go through everything that I expect on the show, what it is that we're going to be talking about. It would be very individual, I think, something that you would want to come up with, because your show would obviously be different from mine. But the key thing for me is to make sure that they have a microphone, to make sure that they are going to promote me on their Facebook page. Make sure that if there's a book, I ask for a copy of the book before they're going to come on the show. And because I usually review the book, I always review the book before I invite the guest on. I want to make sure that it's in line with what my audience will be interested in, and in line with, you know, my own personal ideas about things. So I always do review anybody that I have coming on. And it's interesting because getting ready for the show, I realized how long it's been since I've had a guest on, and I've been enjoying coming up with topics. But like I said, for me, I've been doing this for a while, and my prep, and I talked about this as a matter of fact on my radio show last week. I know many people that script out their entire show, which I think is great. I am very much, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but I can talk pretty well. So I very much wing my show. I usually go into meditation. I meditate every morning, and I usually start asking for ideas the day before, whatever. What should I talk about? This week, I had read something very interesting about mindfulness, and so I talked about that. And then, of course, this incredible full moon energy. I wanted to touch on that as well. But I just know what I'm going to talk about. If I'm talking about something in detail like the full moon, which I'll be doing again, like I said, on Facebook Live at 1:30 Eastern Time today, I do research on that. So I make sure that I really know. And any topic I'm not clear on, I do research on. So I usually get myself ready 24 hours before. I find for me, handwriting notes about what I'm going to talk about really puts it in my head. That's the way I do it. Then once I get on the show, I just start talking. I get, you know, a deck that I'm going to use. I pull a card from my deck, take a picture of the card, post it in my Facebook chat room. Another reason why I like this Facebook chat room, because I can put the card of the night in that chat and people know. So that's just a little bit of the way I do it. Again, in the beginning, I was a lot more detailed outlining the show. How do you fill 50 minutes? But as I said, the beauty for me, and there's no reason why you can't do this as well, is I worked with a partner. I had somebody, so there were two of us on the show, and it was really very easy breezy. And that's another great suggestion for you. If you have a like-minded colleague that you would like to work with, or, you know, maybe somebody that is going to say, you know a ton about aromatherapy, and you've got a friend who knows a lot about crystals, and you can bring both those into your show, then it's a great way to do that as well. So let's see. One of the things too, you know, I'm seeing people talking about doing research. If there ever comes anything up on the show, or you have somebody that's in the chat room and they're asking you questions, and I know this has happened to me on these Coach Susan, you know, little things that we're doing here. If you don't know the answer, you're much better off saying you're going to look into it, you're going to post it in the chat room after the show, or you'll talk about it on the next show. Really what you want to do is tell them you'll discuss it on the next show, because what that's going to do is bring them to the next show to listen to it. But don't ever, if you're unsure, don't be afraid to admit that you're unsure. Little tools to remember: always have a glass of ice water, and maybe a little bit of some type of a throat lozenge or something, because boy, that's happened to me before, where all of a sudden you get this tickle in your throat. And see, right now on Facebook Live, I could say I've got a tickle in my throat and just take a drink, but when you're on the radio, that's like dead air. If you start taking a drink, nobody can see, it's dead air. So have those little things, you know, if you're a tea drinker, some hot tea, something like that available, so you can grab it quickly. So let's just see. See, we're having bouncing texts. Okay, let's just see what else we have here. Okay, I just was back scrolling. Okay, Julie is asking, do you have business insurance? No, personally, I don't have business insurance. I have insurance on my home, and I have an umbrella policy that pretty much covers everything. When I was doing more in-person readings out of my home, when I was doing healing work, I did have business insurance, and I got one of those policies. I believe it, you know, the ad for it was in Yoga Magazine, and a couple people talked about it. Relatively inexpensive for quite a bit of coverage. I would highly suggest it. I'd highly suggest it for everybody. It's probably one of those things I should revisit, but life has had other plans for me, so I just haven't gotten around to it. But I'd say, to me, the best way to know you're not going to need insurance is to have it. So I would suggest that. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. And for those of you that are just tuning in, by the way, my name is SusanDintino, and I've been away for a few weeks, but I try and visit with you every Saturday at 12 noon Pacific, 12 noon Eastern time, to give you some tips and answer your questions to get your CACR business going. I do this work pretty much full time, and it's a labor of love for me. So much of what I discuss with you are things that I have done, have tried, the things that have worked, the things that haven't worked, and really what we're looking for is to really help you build a thriving business where not only are you service to others, but you're also service to yourself, because we want to keep that energy exchange going. So just so you know, I'm an Hay House author, Songs of My Life, Slightly Out of Tune, which, hey, that would make a great Mother's Day gift for people. I think it's like $1.99 now on iTunes and Kindle, and it's available on Amazon and all different places, but and I do motivational speaking. Visit my website for all my services and all my upcoming events. Okay, so let's see. Jill is asking, where do you find the stations? What you can do is Google. I came up with Blog Talk Radio because that's the most popular one. I know Beacon of Light comes up quite a bit on Facebook, and I believe they're pretty much a spiritual station. 1-2 Radio is another spiritual station. So what you could do is Google something like spiritual internet stations. And this is, again, you're going to use your own intuitive tools. You're going to be guided to certain places. Like I said, this time I just knew I wanted to be going someplace else. And this gentleman had reached out to me a few years ago, asked me if I was interested. And at the time, it wasn't a good fit. Then energetically, I felt that it was. So you're going to use that litmus test, that spiritual, intuitive litmus test, whether or not it's good for you. Okay, Raphael is asking, any thoughts on doing readings via email and recorded audio? Recorded audio, I have not done. So I have done video readings, email readings. That's really an interesting way to do it. Now especially because there's so many ways you can record. I actually stopped recording mine because I started having problems when I was doing in-person reading with the tapes and things like that. So what I did was I stopped doing that, but invited whoever I was doing a reading for to record me if they'd like. So now if I'm doing a phone reading, anything like that, they have the option and I'm not responsible for the recording. Sometimes people will insert in there speaking about insurance implications. Sometimes people will insert in anything that they're doing, be it email, anything that, somebody can come and say, hey, you said this. They're inserting for entertainment purposes only, just to protect themselves. So in an email reading, this recorded audio that you're talking about, in my opinion, any modality that you're comfortable using, you certainly can, as far as doing readings. The new menu I've offered is video readings, and I use Skype and do video readings. They're becoming very popular. I price accordingly, and if you want to see what I charge, feel free to visit SusanDintino.com/services, and you'll see what I charge, and I charge a little bit more for video. And again, if somebody's got an ability to Skype record, they can. So I think it's a great tool. I certainly think it's something that you can utilize to get your readings out there. Would like to know the angelic readings for next week. Hello from Dubai. Dilip, I believe that is. During these Coach Susan sessions, I do not do readings. So I'm always saying that. As luck would have it, if you're interested in some readings, little mini readings, I will be talking about this new moon energy at 1:30 Eastern time on my Facebook page, by the way. So it'll be on my page, which is Susan Dintino, my name. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so Pamela is saying, yes, there is a chat room on Blog Talk. That's the platform we use. Okay, so Pamela is, I'm assuming then saying that her radio show then, I thought maybe that was the station she was on, but her radio show, and I want to say Angelic Realms, please correct me if I'm wrong, Pamela, is on Blog Talk, and they provide a chat room. So, now Pamela, she might be somebody that would be very happy to talk to you about Blog Talk and what her experience is, because it was interesting, even researching Blog Talk for you before the show. I hadn't been on their page in a while, and boy, their page has really been updated. So I'm sure it's probably, much different from when I explored that option for myself. Another thing too, with something like Blog Talk, you can have more than one show. So say you are somebody that's a stay-at-home person and you want to do a morning show and appeal to a morning person. That's funny, because now I had forgotten that on my first radio station, what I did was I would do a show called Sunrise Celebration. It was only 15 minutes, now looking back at it, and it was every day, and I actually pre-recorded that show, and it would just be a little thought for the day, something to start your day. I think that was the tagline, Sunrise Celebration, a great way to start your day, something like that. And that was actually my first real experience with just doing 15 minutes, just myself. And I'm now thinking about it too. Radley Valentine had a show, Magical Things, on a different station, and I actually did a 10-minute little piece on his show every once in a while. So now all these thoughts are coming back to me, were my little experiences before I was able to talk for 50 minutes without any issues. So, okay, Pamela and Monica, thank you so much for offering that. Okay, so Monica is asking me, how would I compare doing a radio show to a YouTube show? You know, I just started I was doing YouTube shows with a metaphysical store that I was affiliated with in Southwest Florida. Now, I'm on an island here, so I will preface what I'm going to say by saying that I had some issues with the YouTube Live. You use a Google chat room, I believe, and I'm trying to think what the heck it's called. But anyways, I was doing that for them. As a matter of fact, I was doing it with my moon broadcasts, and I have a great relationship with the store. And so, you know, this was something that they had asked me to do, and I did. One thing, you know, with that is that you're limited in how many people are listening. And when you do YouTube Live, it's based on how many people are going to be coming to your YouTube station. To me, if you're interested in doing live, I would suggest Facebook Live, only because I think there's more exposure. I know you also can go live on Instagram. I've been invited to do that using two, iPads or something. I really haven't gotten into that quite yet. So right now I'm just doing the Facebook Live. Then when my videos are done, I know how to post them up on my YouTube station. So somebody that watched this and might wanted to take notes or whatever, I will get this up sometime today on my YouTube station, which is my name. I would say, like anything, it depends where your followers are. For me, I think to get your name out there to begin with, and a radio station show that's got a pretty good following might be a better option. But if you have, a strong YouTube channel, then certainly you can go that way too. And just like Philippe was asking me, or Dilip, I believe it is, was asking me about doing readings. See, many of us are out there doing those weekly readings, pulling a card of the day. All of these are tools that you can use to get your name out there. So Pamela's saying apple juice is good for your throat too on the air. Okay, so let's see. All right. Yeah, see, and Pamela is saying that she tells people that come in person that it is for entertainment only and to keep up with their doctor. Yeah, and that, we haven't talked too much on the show about medical advice. So just suffice it to say that even if you are a medical intuitive, really you always want to have that caveat about that you're not a medical doctor and things like that. Whenever somebody asks me for a health reading, the first thing I say is I'm not a medical intuitive, because if they're really looking for, or a health intuitive, anything like that, if they're really looking for that type of reading, I want to tell them immediately that's not what I do. So if they're inclined to go to somebody else, if it's somebody that signed up for a reading and that's what they thought, I will refund their money if they prefer to go somewhere else. It's the first thing I say. I do say that I can read their energy, and I also strongly suggest if they have any medical concerns to consult their doctor. So yeah, that definitely, Pamela, is great. And hello, Marty, welcome for the first time. Gabriella, I know I'm not getting to everybody. Lori's here for the first time. Okay, so Lori really asks a great question, because what we're going to do is be saying goodbye. I see we're almost at the 50-minute to hour mark. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask, because I'll stay on until for the next 10 minutes. But I think this is a great question that Lori's asking, and she's saying she's having a hard time keeping her feet on the floor. And I'm going to take this in two ways. The first thing I'm going to remind everybody is the importance of grounding, especially when you're doing this work, making sure that you've got your feet and those beautiful earth star chakras located on the bottom of your feet. Make sure that they're open, and before you're doing your work, your readings, each and every day, I feel it's important to ground. So if you're having that, and we'll take that in a very, literal way, keeping your feet on the ground. If you're feeling floaty, anything like that, grounding is essential for light workers. It should be part of your daily practice. Grounding, protecting, shielding, cutting cords. This might be something we should talk about, and I know I've addressed it, but maybe it bears repeating. So next week I am going to be talking about email marketing, getting email lists going and things like that. So I will be live next week right on this page. Getting to the other part of your question, which I'm going to take more metaphorically. Getting your feet on the ground, it could also be interpreted that what you're wondering is, how do you really get started? What is all of this about? How can you really get this going? And what I would say to you, and again, I don't want to get into too much of this because we're talking about very CACR stuff and I want to stick with that, but because this is a full moon and because I'm going to be talking about this in 30 minutes or so, this is a great energy to really do some inward exploration and ask yourself where you are and where you want to be. And what I'm getting around you, Lori, and so many people in CACR is really getting to a place where you've either got affirmations up or something around that keep reinforcing that you are a powerful light worker and that yes, you can do this work and yes, you can give really good readings, that the information is coming through you. And what you need to do is take baby steps and constantly be your coach. So Coach Susan here to give you everything that I've learned. And I've really been doing this solidly since 2004. Okay, so really everything that I've learned on my journey, I'm sharing with you. So you figure you're looking at what? 2004 here, I do my math, 13 years, that I've been doing this. And I've been, on a metaphysical path my whole life and not out of the closet, so to speak, as I am now. So it is daunting to get out there and do these things. And I think you have to be comfortable in what you're doing. Something like approaching people like on a Facebook Live radio show, it might not be in your wheelhouse, and that's okay. But just know that just by doing a reading for somebody, a one card pull for somebody that's having a rough day can be all the change this person needs. So start small. I really think don't put so much pressure on yourself. So many of us have been in these jobs in past lives, and we've been, devoted service people. So we have all of this pressure that we've got to be perfect, and we have to be appealing to, thousands of people. Well, it's at one drop of water. One drop of water contributes greatly to the ocean. So just remember that. All you need to be is that drop of water. It's not always about being the ocean, and I know many of us have those feelings that that's what we're being drawn to do. But I will just share something with you. When my book came out, Songs of My Life, Slightly Out of Tune, and I was published by Hay House, I was thrilled. I thought, oh my gosh, I've made it. I have made it. This is it now. And I am so proud to be published. However, the writing and all of the getting published was exhilarating, but then the selling, the marketing, the book tour, all on my dime, because that's the way it is now. I'm a newbie in that world. So it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I really had a little bit of a re-examination of how I determined success. What was my definition of success? And what I began to realize, even with my children's book, A Year of Me, my meditations that I've done, that it's not about how many. It's about that specific one child that maybe was touched by my book, that one person that reached out to me after reading songs, telling me that I made them laugh on a day they didn't think they could laugh. That's what's important. So getting your feet on the floor, first of all, grounding, taking it literally. But the best advice I can give you is to take it one step at a time and have a powerful affirmation ready whenever that self-doubt creeps in. So I hope that helps, Lori. And let me just look really quickly. Okay. Okay. Well, I thank everybody for tuning in, and I want to just wish each and every one of you that this pertains to a very happy Mother's Day. Do something special for yourself. I'm actually going to be alone on Mother's Day because I'm in Florida, family elsewhere, but I am going to have my Sunday in bed where I'm going to read a really good book. I've already got a beautiful bouquet of flowers, so I am going to treat myself very special. But please honor your mothers wherever they may be. Most importantly, if you're a mother, honor yourself. And I thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for the comments and your questions. And next week I'll be right back here live. This will be up on Facebook, and also it will be up on my YouTube station. Visit me, and again, if you're looking for some mini readings, I'll be up at 1:30 and tell you all about this full moon energy. Take care now. Have a great week and enjoy everything that you possibly can. Bye-bye now.